Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to It's Rainmaking Time. This is Kim Greenhouse. You know, when you think about the kind of transition facing humankind today, you know that the stakes are high. And although we like to walk around operating like we're in the know, the fact is that many of us are not in the know. There are great changes taking place, and there are people that are here on Earth to help midwife humankind to an advanced consciousness, to a place of stewardship and peace and recognition, and to elevate what's possible here. Our guest is one of those people, and it is my great pleasure to welcome Mary Rodwell, who is a former nurse and midwife, but actually she's a midwife in the spiritual sense. She's a counselor and hypnotherapist, a metaphysician, and she is the principal and founder of ACERN, the Australian Close Encounter Resource Network in Perth, Western Australia. Mary has traveled all over the world as an international speaker, introducing the whole concept of abduction, of the UFO presence, and helping people heal and deal with their experiences who may feel isolated, may feel like they're going crazy, and are experiencing either trauma or concern with how to deal with it. She is the vice president of the Star Kids Project, an advisory member of Exopolitics. She has written the book Awakenings and has many DVDs and CDs available. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mary to It's Rainmaking Time. Good morning in Australia.
Good morning, Kim, and thank you so much for that wonderful intro. I hope I can live up to it.
You know, I have to tell you something quickly. Many years ago, I was a tournament tennis player, and I've shared this on the air before. At a young age, there was this man named Tommy Cook who used to be this big announcer and promoter, and he introduced me one day at a tournament. There were like 300 people in the audience. He gave me the biggest introduction. I mean, it was like being at Wimbledon. I walk up to the baseline to serve, and I kid you not, Mary, I served the ball, and I hit the corner of my racket. I hit the wood. I never even hit the sweet spot. I got so nervous, I knocked the thing 500 feet out of the bleachers. So sometimes good introductions can help, and sometimes they can hinder, but I know in this case that they're helping. Because I'm talking to a fellow midwife, so I know it's a help. Some people may say we shouldn't be laughing. This is not a laughing matter, but I have to tell you that many years ago, I always thought I was very neutral about the subject of ufology and the alien presence and close encounter experience. The only thing I knew years ago, in terms of my own personal view, which shapes a lot of what we think, is that I accepted that we were not alone. I didn't need proof. I just accepted it. And I've always had an interest, but I have never had the level and depth of attention and interest like I have now in the middle of my life. And so I'm exercising great discernment to find people who are stewarding this subject carefully, honorably, and with excitement and forbearance at the same time. And you appear to be one of those people. So I'm delighted to have you on the show.
Thank you, Kim.
The first thing I want to ask you is there seems to be a distinction between the third dimension and the multiverse, or this multiple universe that we're living in, that is shaping what we see and what we're filtering in terms of our understanding of reality. And I've heard you talk about this on different videos, and you've written about it. But I think to begin our conversation, I'd like you to distinguish it for the audience.
Well, I think what I need to say is that, the indigenous peoples do not have a distinction between third-dimensional reality and the multiverse or multidimensional reality, because it's part of everything they accept within themselves. They know there's an unseen world. They experience it in other levels. The problem is with Western society and our devotion to the scientific paradigm is that unless we can touch and feel it and see it, then we're told it doesn't exist. So for those that have experiences of a multidimensional nature, and that's anyone with clairvoyance, clairaudience, seeing spirits, seeing extraterrestrials or whatever, basically they're told from an early age, if they do say that they're experiencing this, that it's not real. And so they're in a constant flux between the third dimensional reality that they're told is real and their other experiences in a multidimensional reality. So this constant conflict continues unless at some point they themselves can decide whether or not they're going to honor that other aspect of their experience. And that can take many, many years before they will do that. In the meantime, they will try and deny those experiences, if you like, because they want to be normal. They don't want to be seen as strange, weird, and wonderful. They don't want to be seen as crazy. And to give you a profound example of the problems that causes, a 14-year-old girl that I write about in my book, Awakening, is that at 14 she went to her GP saying that she was seeing aliens. The doctor then diagnosed her as schizophrenic, and she was put on a cocktail of drugs, which over the next few years caused her to want to commit suicide, or she at least tried to a number of times, until she finally, about 19, phoned me after seeing some talk shows on, the whole contact experience, realizing for herself that, in fact, she was not crazy. But unfortunately, the damage with the medication by this time was one that made it a real journey for her. So this is why I'm so passionate, Kim, about this, is that we are medicating and diagnosing as an abnormality something that really is part of our heritage.
I guess on a clinical level, I'm sure that you could understand why some people in the medical field have asserted that this is a clinical condition because they're superimposing schizophrenia on top of the experience of what this young girl expressed, even though it wasn't that. You know what I'm saying?
I do, absolutely. And this is why we have to look at, we have to research in psychology what I call our multidimensional reality, because at the moment there's still a divide where, the questionnaires that psychologists use are if you're hearing voices, then you are, psychologically unsound, whereas in fact many people, and we are now starting to honor the fact that some people see a broader reality than others, such as clairvoyants, mediums, whatever. They're not crazy. They are just able to perceive at a greater or wider breadth of reality than many of the rest of us. That does, we've got to learn to start researching and understanding that rather than seeing it as an abnormality.
Don't you also think that when we rely on higher guidance, that there's many ways that guidance comes in? It comes in through the intuitive faculty of sensing how we're supposed to do something or how we're supposed to proceed or if we're supposed to proceed or what to do. But it also comes in direction. Like I get direction to do things. I get both sensing and direction. And sometimes I even get, don't do that, or throw that out, or do that again. Look out for that. Like that, I get actual words. Sometimes I would wake up and I would get instruction upon awakening. That's how some guidance comes in. And so I think there's no context, there's no paradigm in the psychiatric realm for this paranormal and this intuitive realm of communication, whether it's from what we would call divine communication or this extraterrestrial intelligent communication. Do you agree?
Absolutely. And, it can be a gut feeling, it can be a sensing or just knowing, that, as you say, that intuitive sort of awareness, or it can come in an auditory way where something in your head is saying this isn't a good idea and it feels right. And that is completely different from someone being controlled by voices that are telling them to jump off the cliff. There's a distinct difference between that. And one is a very grounded way of being in touch with those other senses, that feeling or that knowing or that energetic feeling that gives you information. I mean, all these senses are something that I've needed to understand and explore myself because it is, it's really important that we have an understanding of these extraordinary senses that actually everybody has, but we suppress them because we're told only to trust the left side of the brain, the cognitive, rational side. But in fact, it's the right side of the brain, the creative, intuitive, that is the one that taps into this higher knowing, this higher awareness. And it's time we honored and validated that as an important part of the balance between the right and left brain.
Since remote viewing got a stronghold